kill the U.S. ambassador and 3 others was launched prior to any protest at the Libyan consulate last week. This new information directly conflicts with the Obama administration's account of the attack. Fox News foreign correspondent Leland Vittert has the details of this breaking news. Leland.
Erica, this goes down to the timeline of exactly how this attack at the Libyan consulate went down. Was this simply a spontaneous protest over this movie about the Prophet Muhammad that then spiraled out of control? Or was this a pre-planned, premeditated attack by an al-Qaeda cell or an al-Qaeda affiliate group on the consulate designed to kill Americans? And what we have learned is that at 9:35 p.m. local time on September 11th, there were no protests outside the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, and then the attack began. And because of the precision of the attack, the direct fire, the indirect fire, and the pre-planning that could have taken place for that, it is very possible that there was some either inside help or some type of surveillance that had gone on at the compound. In fact, the Libyan president over the weekend said he felt there was pre-planning and premeditation into this, especially considering not only did these militants attack the compound, they also then attacked a safe house nearby that the U.S. consulate officials could have gone to for help. And the protests around the Middle East continue. In Pakistan, we saw violence today. In fact, the embassy in Islamabad temporarily suspended their operations ahead of this protest because they knew it was going to become so violent. There was tear gas flying, and then the Pakistani police even brought out the big water cannons to try to push protesters back from climbing in to the U.S. embassy compound. In Lebanon, Nasrallah, the leader of the Hezbollah militant group, took to the streets in a very rare public appearance to call for continued protests. His militants chanted back, "Death to America." Here in Egypt, where the protests began last Tuesday on September 11th, I had a chance to sit down with one of the organizers of those protests today. He told me, in fact, Eric, that when it comes to this movie, he hadn't even seen it. So you have to wonder where exactly all these protests are beginning and why. Back to you.
Thank you, Leland Vittert. All right, let's set the stage. On one hand, you have the Obama administration blaming a 3-month-old YouTube video for the deadly violence spreading throughout the Muslim world. And on the other hand, we have terror experts, war veterans, Libyan officials, and eyewitnesses saying the attacks were pre-planned 9/11 retaliation aimed directly at the American people. Listen to Ambassador Susan Rice blame the movie.
The best information and the best assessment we have today is that, in fact, this was not a pre-planned, premeditated attack. That what happened initially was it was a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired in Cairo as a consequence of the video. We don't see at this point signs that this was a coordinated, planned, premeditated attack.
Okay. Now listen to Libyan leader Mohammed al-Magharif contradict the administration.
The way these perpetrators acted and moved, I think they're choosing the specific date for this so-called demonstration. I think this leaves us with no doubt that this has pre-planned, predetermined.
All right. So who do you believe, a D.C. bureaucrat or the interim president of Libya? Greg, kick it off.
Well, this is about as spontaneous as a moon landing. How can you say this is a coincidence? It's like saying you went to a strip club and it was a coincidence that you had a lap dance. It happened on 9/11. That is not a coincidence. And I got to ask, where does President Obama find these people? Susan Rice, Jay Carney, did he get them off Craigslist? Try a temp agency like Manpower. They're really good. But America deserves better than these hacks. They're just like, it's like the Keystone Cops or a very special episode of Facts of Life.
But Greg, it comes from the top.
Yeah.
They're saying what they were carefully planned to say, which is that they're blaming a video. After on Thursday, President Obama said it was a terrorist attack. Saturday morning, the State Department said, which I think was the right thing to do, we're not commenting on this anymore. And by Sunday morning, we're brushing this under the rug by saying it was based on a video.
I haven't seen this many amateurs since, like, open mic night at the Comedy Cellar.
Amateurs or Bob, Susan Rice, Ambassador Rice, hit all 5 Sunday talk shows and had the same Same narrative. We knew nothing. It was all about the movie. We didn't know anything about it.
Same talking points. Look, it's clear. A couple of things here are very clear about why this was in fact planned. They got hold of the ambassador. The perpetrators, got hold of the ambassador and the other three in a safe house within the confines of the consulate. This had been planned as a place to escape for something like that. So obviously somebody gave them information of where that was. May have been somebody inside the consulate on the staff who may have been Muslim. I don't know. But to suggest that that was somehow or another this broke off from a demonstration doesn't make any sense. However, having said that, I have no doubt that this film added to the spread of demonstrations to the rest of the Middle East, and so far we've seen no other murders besides this one, and this one was pre-planned.
Well, let's stay on that for a second. Is it right for the Obama administration, all the way from the top down, as Dana points out, from the president to Jay Carney, to the Secretary of State, to the ambassador to the UN, have this narrative that it was all the movie? Meanwhile, we have more and more people, including Libyan leaders, telling us it had nothing to do with the movie. It was a pre-planned retaliation.
Well, it was an excuse, they're saying, for the Muslims to attack, and now it's become an excuse for the administration. Look, I think it's twofold. I actually think Hillary Clinton gets the fact that when you have an ambassador murdered, it is a national humiliation. I actually think President Obama is too obtuse to figure that out. But I think that a successful attack before an election is a very terrible thing to happen to this administration. And that's why you see the State Department officials coming out. They keep blaming this on the video. Here's what's so troubling to me, that on the ground, Al-Qaeda in Libya had better intelligence than we did. So it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to this administration that we didn't have better intelligence. Think about it. 400 people, RPGs, they knew that the ambassador was no longer in Tripoli. Then they knew that he was at the consulate. Then they knew he was moved out of the consulate. They had all that intel, and we did not. Yeah. We failed. So it's an embarrassment.
Important question. What does obtuse mean?
You don't, when you ask it, you prove the point. But here's the thing. Who cares what caused what?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's terror no matter what. As an American, you root for America. The media roots for causes. And that's the problem here. The act itself is terror, not how they got to the act. Who cares?
It does matter, though. It does matter because for the administration to say, well, there's nothing we could have done about it. We didn't have any intel on it. We couldn't have saved it. It was all in response to a flash mob that was reacting to a movie. It eliminates them from any sort of responsibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And also, I talked to a former agency guy who said, remember, Dana, no knowledge of a plan doesn't mean there wasn't planning. And perhaps there is a hole in our intelligence. I don't want to make it partisan. I just want to know what happened and how do we prevent it from happening again.
Well, hold on, Bob. Hold the thought. I'll let you respond to this. Colonel Alan West and Senator John McCain took issue with Rice's assessment. Listen.
When I listened to the UN Ambassador Susan Rice today, several words came to mind: asinine, naive, inept, incompetent, and borderline ignorant.
Most people don't bring rocket-propelled grenades and heavy weapons to a demonstration. That was an act of terror.
All right, there you have a war hero, and actually two war heroes there commenting.
I'm going to pass on one of them and just sort of suggest that some of those words I would use with him. But let's go back to this point about terror. It is absolutely no question in my mind that this was a pre-planned terrorist attack. It also is no question in my mind that this movie contributed to demonstrations throughout the Muslim world. You cannot say the people who protested in Indonesia, for example, the largest Muslim country in the world, are all terrorists. No. They're out there demonstrating, and if somebody did a movie like that about Christ, Jesus Christ, I would demonstrate.
Wait a second. No. They have, and you didn't. We can go through everything from Piss Christ to the Last Temptation of Christ. You could talk about Bill Maher's movie. You could talk about Book of Mormon, which is a lot of people find funny. The Mormons didn't seem to mind. No, we don't go out there and do it, Bob. In fact, even Muslims here in America don't go out and do it. Look, if we apologize to these maniacs over a film, I'm moving to Texas where they grow balls on trees.
Well, and by the way, I'm upset that you insulted facts of life and compared it to this, Greg. Mrs. Garrett had nothing to do with this.
You're right. I apologize.
Apologize to Blair and Tootie and Mrs. Garrett, please.
Can I bring in some news of the day? Over the weekend, 4 American service people were killed, men or women, I believe they were men, were killed in Afghanistan. Again, Afghani people, terrorists coming in and shooting our people up. Is there a sense in the Muslim world that we're weak, that we're appeasing, that we're apologetic?
We're on the retreat. And that is why Islam is on the march. And if you read Bernard Lewis, this goes way back hundreds and hundreds of years to the days of Thomas Jefferson. If you read and study the Quran, Lewis will tell you this jihad will not stop. They are commanded radicals to perform jihad until one of two things happen. One, we are all Muslims, or two, until we're all ruled by Muslims. They only preach tolerance when they're outnumbered, Bob. So this is not a shock that this is happening because of a video or Israel or something.
Let's remember that we have been at war with 2 Muslim countries for some time now, and there is bound to be a resentment against that.
Wait, was that true? Well, wait. We talked last week about you were in Iran in 1979. That was well before the 2 recent wars that you're talking about, and it was before the 9/11 attacks. Exactly. And so Andrea's point, I think, is a good one that says, if you're stepping back, this wasn't about the last 8 years.
No, what I was suggesting here was if we had not been there on the ground, would these guys have been shot? No, but we are. And so obviously people are going to get killed. I mean, that's the sad part of the tragedy of it, but they are.
We got to go. Can we throw that full screen up? Can we do it? Can we please do it? Here's your choice. Come on, producers, please. Put it up. Get it up. Here's your choice. Choice is yours. There it is. President Obama or 2 war heroes and a guy, interim president of Libya.
I'll take the middle guy out.
All right, coming up, President Obama has spent a lot of time trying to make friends in the Muslim world.
My job is to communicate to the American people that the Muslim world is filled with extraordinary people who simply want to live their lives. My job to the Muslim world is to communicate that the Americans are not your enemy.
So how's the appeasement and apology tour working out for you, sir? Dana's on deck. We'll be right back.